I'm the owner and I guess operator of UV Pole and Cirque, and I'm here talking to one of our lovely instructors, Tara, who's been with us for many years. What was it that got you into pole? I feel like this question is like, it's very generic, but I really love hearing people's like, what was it that attracted you?
Yeah, so I actually just had my 14-year anniversary.
Wow.
A bit of backstory. In 2010, I was going through my first breakup, and I was devastated. And at the time, I was studying psychology. We were talking in class about like serotonin and dopamine, and like how do you increase your serotonin and dopamine? And one of the things was like go to the gym. And I was horribly depressed for my breakup. I was like, I'm gonna go to the gym because this will cure me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's actually not.
It's not that far off.
Yeah.
All I remember is that I called up two of my girlfriends and was like, do you want to go take a pole dancing class? And it was at Flirty Girl Fitness, which is now L Social Fitness.
And they don't have poles anymore.
They don't have poles anymore.
They literally were like, they just took them out.
They took them out, and it was heartbreaking.
So
After that first class, I had never taken a dance class in my life. I was always a runner and like I was a music geek, but I had never taken any dance, nothing. But after that first class, something happened. I was like, this is what I want to do. I was so shy and nervous, but something about it just made me feel like $1,000,000 fucking bucks, and it was the one thing that I looked forward to every week. Every Wednesday at 8:30 was like my 1 hour for myself that I could just do something new, do something different. And then 14 years later, here I am.
You said something about it made you feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah.
Can we talk more about that?
When I was in class and I was with two of my girlfriends, like they were both dancers. They both had a dance background. They easily got the movements and like the spins and everything. I was just this awkward, tiny little. Oh my gosh! I'll post a photo. I was so awkward and so like so stiff. And I think that being able to express myself in a different way than I was used to, and like trying something new, I think that was the something. I love trying new things, and I love expressing myself. I've always loved expressing myself, and this was like one of the first times that I could express myself in like a fun and sexy way. That was just for me.
It's just for you.
Yeah. There was no, I needed to do this for somebody. There was no, I need to look good in the mirror. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror at that point. So it was literally just for me.
What about that do you think? So that idea, that concept of I need to do something for me. Because when I hear people say that, it almost sounds ludicrous. Because it's like, well, what is the point of life if we're not enjoying ourselves and doing stuff for us? But we hear this all the time in like late stage capitalism in North America, where we're like, I had to do something for me, and it's like, yeah, as opposed to what? But I feel like that's also the tune that I hear women singing all the time. It's like, oh, I have to do something for me. I have to do something for me. It's because like I feel like we've been bred to cater to everybody else around us, not even just men, but like society as a whole. As like we're always supposed to like make ourselves smaller, make ourselves palatable, make ourselves bite-sized, and it's a woman problem across the board, probably across different cultures and races as well, where women are constantly being forced into small spaces. And you think that was what really made you feel like, wow, I really fucking need this?
I'm a firm believer in the fact that if I did not start pole dancing, I don't think I would be the person I am today that can take up so much space. I think through pole I learned to take up space, and I learned to love and accept myself and be able to express myself regardless of anybody. So that time as well, 2010, pole was still very stigmatized. Sex workers weren't as out as they are now, and so I was being shamed in a way that I had never experienced before. Being called words that I hadn't experienced before either, and so I was still taking part in this activity. I was still taking part in pole regardless of what people were saying and how they were treating me.
Right.
So it was still something that I was like, I'm gonna do this because it feels good for me, and like I'm going to take up this space because I fucking want to.
Yeah. You know, I think the stigma is something that people take for granted in the pole industry when you're out and when you're comfortable and you're maybe not experiencing it as much. Because essentially the layperson sees someone pole dancing. I remember once I was at, and just tell a little story, I was at a party when I first started pole, and someone was like, oh hey, like my friend was, I don't know, he's being weird, he's like, oh yeah, you know, Lisa's like pole dancing now, and someone was like, oh, so you're a stripper? And I was like, actually, I'm not. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but like, I'm really just taking classes. Like, I can barely do anything. You know, I'm not doing that because, like, at the time, I was like, I don't know. I think I have a picture of me, my first invert, and I'm like, koala in the koala. I know, I was not ready. But it was like so funny because, like, the layperson, like, when you really think about the layperson, they don't see any difference. I think that's where the horophobia started in the pole industry, because people, women specifically, I think, started being like, oh, well, I have to separate myself from that. And I did it too. I was like, well, I'm actually not that. And not even in a bad way or like in a gross way, like, oh, I'm not, like, I love strippers, that never cared about that, but I think that's where it started, was people would literally say to you, oh, so that's what you are, and you'd be like, well, actually, I'm gonna correct you. I'm sure some people took it far, like wanted to create that separation, that dichotomy. Is pole a political activity? Because maybe you're not doing it publicly, maybe you're not doing it for a camera, maybe you're not even posting any of the things that you do, but when you come to pole and you're doing that as an activity, you're choosing that as an activity, and most people fall in love with pole, it's something that draws you in. Like, it always felt to me like kind of like sticking it to the man, no matter what your gender is or your sexual orientation, but it didn't feel that way. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
First thing is pole political, yes. There's so many sort of nuances that have been brought into the community in terms of like what to think about. So how do I break that down? How do I break that yes down?
I suppose it could be inherently political, but it's also just like, I want to do art. Like, I don't have to make it anything. Like, it's just something that you do. And I think that's like a natural human, it's like as natural as breathing. It's like, I just want to do something. I want to create something. Whether it's like a painting, a picture, as you know, even math can be artistic. Like, there's whatever it is that you're doing, like it's artistic.
You say yes and.
That's a great question. Because here's the thing, as a studio owner, I want to say no, because I want to make it palatable for everybody.
This is where it gets interesting, right? So I'll say yes and it depends on what lens we're looking through. So I think pole becomes political when because we need to know where it comes from. We need to know. We need to be educated on the origins of pole, right? Where did this activity come from? How is it brought into society? Like, and we need to know about sex work and pole.
Yes.
I think if you are if you're pole dancing, you need to know about sex work and pole. Stripping and pole. To me, it's a need, because it's important to know the origins. It's important to know the origins so people can work through their internalized horophobia. And that's where it becomes, I think, political. Is because within horophobia is the politicalness of horophobia, you know? Like, where did that come from? How did that become a thing? Where is this horophobia coming from? And that has to do with politics, that has to do with shame, that has to do with the politics of shame, and all of these things I'm not going to get into right now, but it's like, if I go down the rabbit hole, yes, it becomes political. And it's a yes and, because then on the flip side of that is the lens of, okay, this is also, you know, most of us here have done the education, most of us here are knowledgeable enough that we can do this, you know, we can do pole without kind of stepping on toes. This becomes a thing of like, this is art. This is dance, and in that sense, it's like, does it have to be political? No.
So it basically, to summarize, like, yes, it is inherently political because it's attached to sex work,
Yes.
whores, and whorephobia.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part of it. But it doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
So yes, it is inherently, but like any art form, it's whatever you want it to be.